Hi everybody in video land. This is Joaquin Lippincott, the CEO of Metal Toad, and I'm here with Erik Åhlin, the CEO and co-founder of Vidispine. So welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm Erik, as Joaquin just said, co-founder and CEO of Vidispine, and been doing that since 2009.
Welcome, Erik. It's great to see you. It's good to connect with you, even if it's digitally. And it's so funny, given the context, you know, you're in Europe, so you're in Sweden, yes?
Yep, Stockholm based, yep.
Yeah. And, you know, it might seem somewhat an impersonal interview where at other scenario, but I think even if you were down the street, we'd probably be meeting the same way, given the situation of things. But
Yep.
Let's start off. Just tell us about your company.
Yeah, so we are two co-founders, myself and Isak, very typical couple from startup, both with technical kind of computer science background, but me doing more of the commercial CEO stuff and Isak doing the CTO style of things and all that. So very typical founder couple, so to speak. Previously, we built a company.
And so just to frame it, this is you're Erik,
Yes.
CEO of Vidispine.
Yes, correct. Erik Åhlin, CEO and co-founder of Vidispine. Before Vidispine, we were part in building up a company called Ardendo, who were kind of first movers in the MAM space 20 years ago or so.
Mm-hmm.
But then we decided, so we sold that company, and then we decided to set out to commoditize the MAM space. Back then, MAM was extremely expensive, you know, multi-million-dollar things, very vertical, the only broadcast industry, and so on. So
and just to unpack the acronym, the MAM is the Media Asset Management.
yes, sorry. Yes, Media Asset Management.
You know, it's interesting. We're not quite sure in terms of, you know, where we're going to go as far as the audience. It's probably going to be a lot of people that are super familiar because the target really is people in the media and entertainment space. But
let's say content management is maybe a better acronym than content management.
Great.
So we bootstrapped that, and with organic growth, we have been doing this fund now for 10 years or so. We started out with a vision of creating something that should, as I said, commoditize the whole content management space. We built it for developers, so it's API only first, which back then, 10 years ago, was quite a bold decision. First few questions we said, how can you sell something without the UI, without the user interaction? But now these days, people get that. The cool thing is that we found cloud like a perfect fit for our vision very, very early on. The whole kind of horizontal take on things, scaling independently. Then 10 years ago, cloud was a little bit early, but these days it's very commoditized. So over the years, we expanded the offering, of course. Content management backend is still, with API first, is still our heart and soul and what we do and our claim for fame. But since then, we expanded into platform as a service and UX framework, so it makes it easier to build things. But our kind of core and where heart is simplifying to building new innovative media solutions for developers. So that kind of core user base is still intact.
And in terms of how you selected the AWS cloud or how you got into the cloud space, what was you said it was a bold move. What was the thing that really prompted you to go that direction?
Yeah, we saw, so one thing we asked ourselves when we started writing the first specs of the API backend was that how small can it get and how large can it get? So how small can you scale and how large can you scale? And on the small side, we were thinking of, you know, small devices, mobile phones, what people today would call IoT maybe. And on the larger scale, we found cloud because that's kind of a global network of servers and so on. That was 10 years ago, people were still talking data centers. And we saw that like a commoditized public data center for everyone. Yeah. Perfect fit for developers who want to sandbox to play around, build cool tools, focus on the innovation on top and so on. So we met all the major public cloud vendors back then, mostly Azure and AWS. And already then AWS was really ahead of the game in terms of, they invented the cloud. So they, of course, they were ahead of the game, but specifically in the media entertainment industry with the challenge around large files and strange formats and all that, they were really getting it way earlier than anyone else. And I think they keep up that advantage still. The others are racing and chasing, but AWS is ahead of the game still.
Yeah.
And since we did that and we reached out, we get to know AWS when they were still kind of the new kid on the block. And the media team was very small, and you get a lot of attention when you brought a customer. So we ended up doing proof of concepts and real deployments very early on. We had our first production grade deployment already 2011 with Deluxe. We did the first SaaS solution called Vidispine 2013, first broadcaster 2013, and first major studio which was really a breakthrough, was Sony Pictures 2014. With Erik Iverson, who's CIO back then, very visionary in terms of understanding that this will change how they do TV and how they deploy that globally. And we ended up with them, and few years later, 15, 16 or so, it started to become like in everyone's mouth. And then we were all doing cloud, and almost, I would claim that we were thought leaders in content management for cloud back then.
Yeah, and I know you certainly are bound by non-disclosure agreements around particular customers, but can you talk a little bit more about what your vision was, or what Sony's implementation was, in terms of like what was the use case, what was the group or division, or some of the content, some of the challenges?
Yeah. It was very much on the TV side and TV distribution side of things, and since there are global operations in that, they saw that cloud could really standardize and standardize and something happened to the line here. Standardize technology, deployment methods, distribution chains, and all that, and save not on storage costs and things, but more on almost on the operation side, how you work with a global team and so on. And they saw that early on. They saw through security discussions, storage cost discussions. They knew that will be commoditized eventually anyways. And a few years later, I would say that they were right.
Yeah, no, I think you're both right, and I think that the impact of cloud is probably going to continue. What would you say the impact of cloud is going to be on the media and entertainment space over the next 3 years?
Yeah, so this is one of my favorite topics these days, and we have this mantra at Vidispine that we want to be ahead of the curve. Right now, people talk about, we threw the discussions around security, compliance, storage cost, and all that, right? And especially with Corona hitting, it's not a discussion anymore. It's here. You have to relate to it. It will have impact on your business. That's fine. All the tech stuff.
Yeah.
The angle that I see now that few are talking about still is that I think the industry is going through what I would call like a mental transformation. And more becoming more like a Silicon Valley style entrepreneurs rather than kind of classic broadcast and media companies. And the more I think of it, it makes sense, because cloud and agile will then it's an absolute spot on in terms of how you do that. You can take on a culture of experimenting, fail fast, integrating with the latest technology seamlessly and all that. But also I think it goes into and what is exciting for me is that it goes into the entertainment industry have to fit into the YouTube generation, both as a consumer but also as employees, right? If you have the smartest talents and they get to select to work for, let's say, a big studio or Spotify or Slack, right? They have to compete about talents, just as they have to compete with how kids and teenagers today are interacting with video, sending across, and so on. And the Silicon Valley style is experimenting, is doing new apps, and the asset that the studios and media entertainment industry has is, of course, the enormous library of content. And how do you monetize that in new ways? And again, to wrap up, cloud and agile is spot on for doing that. But few tech firms, I would say, kind of is tapping into that opportunity still.
Yeah, and you see that, I think, in the industry with Fox's recent acquisition of Tubi, but there's a a series of acquisitions of some of these tech talents. It seems more and more the management and distribution to complement the content ownership that these studios have is certainly the direction that things are going. It's interesting you mentioned agile methodologies as part of sort of the Silicon Valley's influence or tech's influence on the entertainment industry. I was just speaking yesterday to a woman who's a full-time agile coach at Sony Pictures. So she only works within the enterprise, and her whole thing is coaching people on agile, and sort of where you used to have a office of the PMO, the project management office. She's an agile whatever the PMO equivalent acronym would be within that industry. I think that's fascinating. And with that in mind, are there any cloud technologies other than yours that you've heard about or find particularly interesting?
Yeah, so there are a couple of small ones. So we look a lot at kind of the what you might call the tech into the stack, and there's a couple of cool AI solutions out there. The big ones, of course, but we looked into WireX, who do some interesting stuff around using AI to, for example, automatically fit a clip into the right time span, for example, and finding QC problems. There's Nablet, who we work with, who's doing like an automatic highlighting for sports games.
Oh, wow.
I think AI is right now in a phase where you've gone through the major innovation on making it generally available. Now it's all about finding the perfect fit for one specific niche. Maybe the more niche, the better. And what Nablet is doing around, again, automatic highlighting is quite fascinating. There's Bitmoving, there's Max.com, there's some other of those technologies that facilitates others to build stuff. But I think it's more around efficiency tools like Jira, Slack, Zoom, Pipedrive, HubSpot, all those that kind of make the rest of the industry and our companies tick on a daily basis. And we don't think of them as cloud technology, but they are. I mean, they are everything we do these days is SaaS and cloud, full stop. And I think that maybe integrate them into productivity suites and so on, a space I'm trying to find somebody who's doing something good is in automatically using AI for optimizing workflows and workloads and making smart helping middle managers, white collars to do better and more informed decisions. I think there's a lot of things that can be done in that space. And so if you have a tip on that, I'm all ears also.
Yeah, well, no, it's interesting. We do some of the consulting for some of the largest studios, in particular around digital delivery. And it's really, I mean, I would say surprising, but it's kind of not how much of that is actually a manual process. And it's, whether it's metadata being flagged, to go one way or the other, or, you introduce all kinds of things in terms of clerical errors and the time that it takes to actually get some of those things done. And a lot of it is it's not anybody's fault. It really is just a result of, legacy technology built on legacy technology. And I think this move into cloud is a real opportunity and something that Vidispine really is enabling. You talk about AI, that wouldn't be possible without a media asset management system, or a media workflow that is enabled in the cloud. And once it's enabled in the cloud, then there's all sorts of opportunities for AI to sort of leverage.
And data is the new oil. I mean, in terms of where you create value, and having that associated with your content is just, I mean, it's a no-brainer. But I think that the bigger company studios, media conglomerates, they already do this in a way. But I think that needs to trickle down to tier 2, tier 3 region broadcasters, and maybe even global brands and whoever needs to reach out to an audience, that they need to kind of up their game in content quality, data awareness, and so on.
Yeah.
Another cool startup we're working with, who is slightly stealth, I can't say too much, but they are doing vertical integration of the supply chain. So you have the production companies and all that, but there's also freelancers and other companies in that whole kind of supply chain, and integrating that like they do in many other industries, is also still lacking in media entertainment. And will be really, really interesting to follow how they build that up the next 2 years.
Yeah, you know what's great to hear also is really what I'm hearing in the spirit of how you're approaching things, and generally how I think the best cloud technology vendors are, is really one of specialization and collaboration, which reminds me a lot of open source, when it was about all rallying together around an open source stack. Now it seems to be more around, okay, well, we've got this platform, we have these services, let's figure out how we can do our thing really well.
Yep.
And find the best people, the best systems to actually tap into.
Yep.
With the impact of coronavirus, hitting all of us, what do you think the impact is going to be over the next 12 months? So here's a chance to grab the crystal ball and say, for the media entertainment industry, what do you think the impact is going to be?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, like the first 5 minutes of every single call I'm on these days, you do like a Corona news sync. So there's a big efficiency drop in there.
Yeah.
30 people talking Corona for 5 minutes. No, joking aside, many ways. And you can't stop thinking about this. But first of all, I think it triggers new ways of working, like what we do right now. It's going to be the new normal to meet in virtually, and people will learn these tools. People who are kind of laggers and late adopters, they will be dragged and pulled into working digitally and more online. Other than that, I can only assume that people will consume more content as they spend more time at home, of course, right? That's got to be good for the industry. On the other hand, sports events and all those things that used to be massive revenue drivers for many of our customers is being canceled. So that's on the bad side.
Oh my gosh, that's huge.
Yeah. It's billions that is sunk. I mean, just canceling the Olympic or moving it 1 year, it's a massive drop, of course, and big and small. So I must say that summing all of that up, I think that unfortunately, like short term or 12 months, it's a net negative impact. But beyond that, I think that I'm a little bit more positive. I think that, again, we will learn to work smarter. We will learn to use digital tools. Our customers and partners are forced to rethink what they do and how they do it. And if you look at crises in general, they spur innovation and new ways and smart ways of doing things. So long term, maybe beyond 12 months, I'm more on the positive side.
Yeah. If we use it for a moment to influence change, and frankly, I don't think there's any way not to. I think the people who grab this opportunity to move deeper into the cloud and into digital, I think will be the ones who come out on top. And certainly with the increasing cost in content creation, Netflix is spending ungodly amounts of money on content, and everybody is chasing that. The question really becomes, where do you see your efficiencies? And I think there's a lot of opportunity for efficiencies within the media management and distribution chain. So I think that bodes well for Vidispine.
Yeah, and I think and hope that we also see a new wave of innovation also in terms of I see people posting now, people are being locked in at home or in quarantine. Human being is great at kind of making the best out of the situation. All those crazy videos that comes out of because people are being bored.
Yes.
What if we could? And so just before this call, somebody sent me a link of, there's a thing right now, people doing the Phil Collins song "In the Air Tonight," doing that in different ways. It's like it's an enormous kind of locked-in creativity that just gets burst out right now, and maybe we could channel this to kind of new communities, new cool applications and use cases at the end of this. We'll see. Human being is great at using creativity at its best.